Hi, and welcome to Real Talk, where I'm your host, Dr. Rollins Fells. Thank you so much for tuning in to this week's episode. And boy, do I have a treat for you. Can I get all of my lovely guests to give a wave to our audience today? And I'm going to invite all of you to stay tuned, because when we come back from this commercial break, we're going to have a conversation about liberating legacy through service in our community and through voting. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Real Talk with Dr. Rollins Fells. It's a place where we're going to have honest conversations that reframe reality, empower vision, activate faith, and liberate legacy. I'll see you then. And thank you for staying tuned. Welcome back to Real Talk with Dr. Rollins Fells, where I am excited to bring to you today the illustrious Divine Nine, and we'll tell you more about who that is and who that involves in just a moment, and a special guest from our local community, Miss Antoinette Jones. We are talking about legacy on Real Talk, and this episode is going to focus on the importance of voting. So in the spirit of unity and collaboration, I wanted to reach out to a body of folks, an organized group that has been working in our communities for years. And that led me right to the members that you see represented on your screen today. And so we are going to jump right into this conversation. And ladies and gentlemen, I am going to ask that you would please introduce yourself, your Greek organization, and where you are from. And with that, George Washington, could you please kick us off?
Thank you so much for having us today. My name is George Washington. I'm representing the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, founded in 1911 at Howard University, the first Black fraternity founded at a historically Black college or university. I pledged myself at Zeta chapter of the Omega Psi Phi at Virginia Union University, and was founded there at Virginia Union in 1919.
Wonderful. Welcome, George Washington. Thank you for representing Omega Psi Phi. Herb Doc Monroe, could you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
Thank you so much. I just want to say it's a plum pleasing pleasure to represent the brothers of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity, founded in 1911. Bloomington, Indiana, and I'm a proud brother to have been a founding brother at the notorious Nu Phi chapter at Lock Haven University. I actually pledged 30 miles up the road at Penn State, but then the brothers at Lock Haven came 30 miles back down the road, and we founded the chapter at Lock Haven University. And again, thank you so much for having me this afternoon.
Thank you for joining me, Dr. Monroe. Let's go down to Malcolm. Malcolm, introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Malcolm Holmes, member of Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. We were founded at Howard University on January 9th, 1914. I am the immediate past president of the Richmond Alumni Chapter in Richmond, Virginia, and a former state director as well for Phi Beta Sigma. So it's my pleasure to be here with you all this evening, and I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Wonderful. I'm going to skip and go to Clyde. Clyde, could you represent your organization and introduce yourself?
Hey, thank you for the opportunity. I'm with Iota Phi Theta Fraternity. We were founded in 1963 at Morgan State University. Today, I'm representing Beta Alpha Omega chapter from Northern Virginia. I pledged at Rutgers University, which is the Alpha Psi chapter. I crossed in 1984. And as you all know, we are the baby of the Divine Nine, but we're not the least. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to skip down to the bottom and get the gentleman out of the way. William Fells Jr., could you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm William Fells Jr. I'm a spring 2013 initiate of Beta Gamma Lambda of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated, founded on May 4th, 1935. And of course, the illustrious Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was founded on December 4th, Ice Cold Tuesday, 1906. Our motto is first of all, service of all, we shall transcend all. And just happy to see all you here today. I'm the immediate past chaplain of the Beta Gamma Lambda chapter. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And now, ladies. Tanya Jones, could you introduce yourself, ma'am?
Aloha. My name is Tanya Jones, and I am of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the first Greek letter organization founded January 15th, 1908 at Howard University, Washington, D.C. My chapter here in Hawaii is Lambda Chi Omega, where I was initiated in December of 2019. Thanks for having me here today.
Thank you, Tanya. Ms. Alicia Jackson-Warren.
Well, greetings, everyone. My name is Alicia Jackson-Warren. I represent the Finer Sisters of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. I am pleased to share that I am a Fall 88 initiate of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority, having pledged at RONU chapter at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia. I represent Delta Zeta Zeta chapter here in Prince George's County, Maryland. And of course, Zeta, like many of our other D9 organizations, we were founded January 16th, 1920 at Howard University in Washington, D.C. And we are proud to be amongst those organizations founded at an HBCU. So happy to be here today.
Thank you. Raina Dudley.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Raina Dudley, and I'm a member of those devastating divas, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. We were founded on the campus of Howard University, January 13th in 1913. I was privileged to pledge at Virginia State University in the Alpha Eta chapter. And I'm glad to be a part of the conversation this afternoon.
Thank you for joining us, Raina. And Dr. Dandridge.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Crystal Dandridge. I am representing the Royal Ladies of Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated, founded in 1922 at Butler University, which is in Indianapolis, Indiana. I am currently representing the Iota Sigma chapter, the alumni chapter in Richmond, Virginia. I am their social action chair, and I am definitely excited to take part in this conversation. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And there are two of us on this call today, or on this show today, that are not affiliated with a sorority, and that is Antoinette and I, but we are doing some great work that align with the themes of all of your organizations and the work that you're doing in the community. And so Antoinette, could you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Antoinette Jones, and I am a resident of Caroline County, Virginia. And I am in the streets trying to get people to vote or encourage them to vote and explain why they should vote in this upcoming general election. So I am just trying to start a grassroots project here in the county. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Awesome, awesome. And so one of the things that unite all organizations that are on the screen today is a theme of empowerment. It's a theme of community service and community engagement, and scholarship as well, and the importance of voting. And so on this episode, before we go to our first commercial break, I want to hear from you all. Why is voting important enough that these national organizations have it embedded in your programmatic thrust? So who would like to take a stab at that one and give our answer first?
If I may, this is Alicia. I'd like to throw my hat in the ring. Respectfully, your vote is your voice. And too often, our communities, particularly people of color, have not taken advantage of this privilege. And in times past, we were disenfranchised and not able to have a voice or a vote. So having that in consideration, I'm looking at the fact that we are standing on the shoulders of giants, and we must take it upon ourselves to move forward and make our voices heard, and our needs are also pronounced so that we can have our needs addressed in our communities.
If I can add to that, I just want to say that when you ask the importance of it, And as Alicia alluded to, the vote is the empowerment, right? If you don't vote, then we're powerless. And one of the things I just really wanted to point out is distinguishing the difference between registration and voter education. A lot of people get wrapped up in registration, but education is where it's at. There are a number of people who vote who don't understand who they're voting for. They don't understand the platform. And quite frankly, that's just as dangerous as not voting. So it's very important. I mean, like, voter registration really is the mechanism in order to get to empowerment, but the empowerment comes in the education. So it's very important to vote, number one, so that you're empowered, and then understand exactly what you're voting for so you get the exact representation that you're looking for.
Wonderful. William, what is the name of the your voting initiative with your fraternity?
Yes, one of our national programs is A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, and I was showing you my shirt. And the Voteless People as a Hopeless People was founded in 1930 by our founders. In the time in the 1930s, when of course they had the right to vote, but there were a lot of voter suppression going on, a lot of threats and things to that nature. So it was very hard to vote. And we see some of those same things happening now. And so this initiative has started in 1930, and we've continued to add to it. And just like the other gentleman said, we've added voter education, because voter registration is the first prong, but the second prong is actually the education, so that you can know who you're voting for, when the voting is coming up for you in your area, making sure that you vote in not just the national elections, but also in the midterm elections and things of that nature. We have forums, all types of things to help push on those initiatives. So that's what we do for the Alphas.
Wonderful. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to stay tuned and keep that theme in mind, that a voteless people is a hopeless people. And when we come back, we are going to continue the conversation with the Divine Nine. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. And welcome back to Real Talk with Dr. Rollins Fells, where today we are liberating our legacy and we are becoming educated by the Divine Nine on the importance and the value of voting. Now, before we left, I asked a question about, why is this work important anyway? And so, Malcolm, I'd like to pick up with you, and could you please share your insight into why voter registration and voter education is important?
Well, sure. William made an excellent point when he mentioned not only the national elections, but also the local elections and how important they are. And I feel that voter education drives not only registration, but it drives voter participation as well. And participation is critical. In 2017, right here in Virginia, you guys may remember that the House of Delegates was decided by the drawing of a candidate's name out of a hat. And that's because, folks, the actual number of voters, people that are actually out there in the participating in the process, it wasn't sufficient. And that's critical. I mean, people have to participate, or else this is going to happen again. You'll get a person's name drawn out of a hat. That's not how the electoral process should work, folks.
I agree. Great insight. Great insight. And Tanya, why do you feel like voting, especially in this season, is critical?
So voting is always critical, but for me, it's a little bit special. It's even more dear to my heart because of what we've been celebrating recently. So this year, we celebrate the 100th anniversary of the passage of the 19th Amendment and the women who fought for that right. So this year, in having a historic Democratic vice president nomination, Senator Harris, it's a testament to the legacy for which Black women fought to vote. Again, if we want our vote to matter, if we want our voices to be heard, what better time for us to get out and to vote? And it's just another opportunity and another example to see, whereas look how far we've come. We still have work to be done, but it's a great time to get out and make a difference with this year's election.
And if I may echo those comments, I'm just so elated based on our two speakers that just spoke, because as a former civics teacher, there were three things that we used to define around voting: duties, rights, and responsibilities. And we know that responsibilities are things that we should do. We also know that when you talk about your rights are things that you can do and things that you've earned the privilege to do. But a duty is a legal obligation. And we have a legal obligation to stand on the shoulders of those that have come before us, because everyone on this screen at one time in this country's history was not even allowed to vote. So we need to exercise our rights, our duties, and our civic responsibilities to go out there and be heard by casting our vote. It is so important and it is critical, especially under our current social pandemic.
Absolutely. And if I may add to that, I wrote down some statistics because, like you said, a lot of people aren't getting out to vote, and something that kind of blew my mind, and I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget. When I did a quick fact, in the last election, Milwaukee's voting was down by 68% of the population. It's 112,000 people who did not vote, who would have voted based on previous elections. The current president won by only 10,000 votes. So 100,000 votes that could have changed the outcome didn't, because people simply didn't get out to vote. Our voice is important. And if we, like you said, if we don't get out there and exercise our duty and responsibility, we're not going to see change. And I think we're all in a place where we want to see some change happen.
Mm-hmm. I love how you bring in that civics component. And here on Real Talk, we did an episode with Carla Carter, where she was tracing my family lineage. And one of the things that was really profound was that she found a voter registration record from 1867.
Wow.
And it accompanied some newspaper articles as well of people in my family voting for the very first time. So it is definitely something that I personally feel that we should not take lightly. It is a responsibility that we have, and there are many who fought, bled, and died to have that as a right. And so when we talk about legacy and we talk about families and we talk about, this civic duty and responsibility, what I have noticed in my years of working with in the world of education is that these fraternities and sororities that are represented here today are always in the community. The legacy footprint that you are trekking, that you are carving, that you are leading has been present for a very long time. And so I want to make sure that in this episode, I give a platform for you to highlight the work that you're doing in the community. And George, I'm going to start with you. Can you give us a description of what Omega Psi Phi is doing in our communities?
Absolutely. Omega Psi Phi is leading the charge in our communities through voter registration, education, and mobilization. We've talked a lot about the importance of voting, uplifting the community. We believe that, we find advancement by way of the ballot box. And in fact, we talk about legacy, representing Caroline County as other members on this panel are, we come from a rural community where we looked up to leaders in our community who encouraged us, who uplifted us, and many of us have gone on to follow in the footsteps of some of those folks that came before us, and that was always so paramount for us. In our school system, with our teachers, in our churches, and just throughout the community. So I'm proud to, to carry on that legacy through Omega Psi Phi with this program, partnering with the local NAACP, the local churches, the local Panhellenic Council, and to reach out into the community. Of course, all of these organizations are comprised of undergraduate and graduate chapters. Of course, we're in a very unique time this year where many of the undergraduate chapters that would be working very hard with their social action programs may not be on campus or may be limited in the scope and reach of what they can actually do. So many times we find the graduate chapters that are really reaching out into the communities, that are encouraging others to vote. And so one of the things that I think is very important, not only are we registered and that we make sure that we go out to vote, we should all be encouraging everyone to take someone with them. We've seen just in our most recent presidential election where you can lose the popular vote and still win the electoral vote. So, you know, it is very important that every person that has the opportunity to vote get out.
Awesome. We're going to take a break right there for a commercial, but when we come back, Raina, I'd like to pick up with you and then Dr. Dandridge on what your organizations are doing in terms of work in the community. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned to Real Talk with Dr. Rollins Fells. We'll be right back.
Strategically Inspired Solutions is your source for personal and professional development services. Our dedicated team of transformational coaches, speakers, and consultants know how to drive innovation and deliver high-impact results. In our one-on-one or group coaching programs, you will discover and design the authentic life you have always desired. Strategically Inspired Solutions also offers comprehensive consulting services to small, mid-size, and large firms. We invite you to join our family of clients and partners by visiting our website at www.sysmotivation.com. We look forward to working with you in creating a newfound purpose, vision, and energy for yourself, your company, and within your communities.
And welcome back to Real Talk with Dr. Rollins Fells, where we are keeping it real, focusing on the letter L and liberating our legacy through voting and community service. And today I have the special honor of representatives from the Divine Nine joining me today. Before the break, we heard from Mr. George Washington there representing Omega Psi Phi and talking about footprints of legacy in the community. And at this time, Raina with Delta Sigma Theta, I'd like to hear about the efforts of your sorority and liberating legacy in the community.
Well, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated has been in the community since its conception, especially with regards to voting. Delta's first public act was participating in the women's suffrage movement, in the women's suffrage march. So since its conception, we have been out in the community encouraging people to vote and fighting for the right to vote. So when you speak about legacy, as a member of Delta Sigma Theta and as a Black woman, it is very important for me to get out and vote myself. And also, as it was mentioned before, take somebody else with me.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Crystal Dandridge, tell us about your sorority and what you're doing in the community.
Okay, well, Sigma Gamma Rho Sorority Incorporated actually just recently announced that they are officially partnering with When We All Vote. It's an initiative that was started by former First Lady Michelle Obama. And the initiative not only focuses on registration, but it also focuses on educating, mobilizing, and energizing individuals to get to the polls. As we have seen in recent elections, not just on the national level, but also on local levels, polling places are being closed down. We all know the issues with USPS and getting the mail-in ballots out, and just kind of getting individuals to the polls with access to transportation and everything being limited depending on the community that you're in. And so we're very interested in educating individuals as well as helping them to get to the polls. And that's just on a national level. On local levels here in the Richmond, Virginia community, we've hosted different virtual summits that also highlighted the need for voting, especially following the recent protests and everything that has been going on. So we're definitely in the community, we're definitely engaged, and we're definitely ready to help people get out there and vote.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for the work that you are doing and for the big nuggets of wisdom that you have dropped here on the show. And I'll give a quick recap. And it is not just about voter registration. While that is good, we have reiterated on the show today that the second step is that voter education. Clyde, I believe that you said making sure that you know the candidate profiles, know what platform and what things they're advocating for. So becoming educated on that. William, I believe that you were the one that mentioned making sure that you are voting every time there is an election and not just the big ones, quote unquote, and making sure that we mobilize. So making sure that you take someone with you, that accountability within our community is important. And so with that, I always like to make sure that we are able to take action steps, that this show is to reframe your reality, educate you, empower that as well. And so on that note, Antoinette, I know you're doing a lot of grassroots things here in our local community. You have taken the initiative to enroll in courses and become educated on the process here in Virginia. And so I have asked Antoinette if she could pull her top 3 to 5 tips to share with the viewing audience of what they need to know. And so Antoinette, with that, could you please empower our viewers?
Thank you. 5 things I think are good nuggets to know with every election. Okay, first, what are your poll hours? The polling hours are 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. If you're in line by 7 p.m., you are still permitted to go in and vote. Another key thing to remember, the last day to register to vote is October the 13th, 2020. Okay, and there are different ways to vote. You can go online. You can actually vote at DMV, at your DMV office. And that's another tip. If you're changing your address or your name with DMV, they always ask on the application, would you like to notify voter registration office that you're submitting this change? That question is always yes. Because if you show up at the polls with a different name or address than what the voter election board has, they may turn you away because they have to match. So always say yes on your application. Also, if you don't see your registration information, please call your local registrar's office to find out where it is. Also, another question, if you have been convicted of a felony, can you still vote? Yes, you can still vote. But Governor Northam in Virginia has to prove that. There's also additional information on that website on what you need to do. There is a Secretary of Restoration. That's the local office which will provide you with more information on what paperwork you need to complete in order to register. Also, absentee ballots. If you are requesting an absentee ballot, that ballot has to be into the Elections Board's office by 7 p.m. on November the 3rd. It cannot be postmarked on November the 3rd. It has to be in the hands of someone at the Election Board by November the 3rd. Also, ID, which is going to issue in the past. We thought it was voter suppression, but we have to have some type of ID when we show up at the polls. There is a long list of IDs that you can present. You can go into the Election Board website and it would give you a list of those IDs. It doesn't have to be a driver's license. There are many other IDs that you can present, as small as a bank statement. So definitely be familiar with that, a utility bill, veteran ID, but the whole list is on the Elections Board website for your convenience.
That I learned a couple of things just in your quick recap. And so what I want to encourage the viewers is to understand that I know that this show, our audience is across the country. And what's going to be important, in addition to what Antoinette said, is to go online. One website that you can look at is voteamerica.com. or go to nationalvoterregistration.com and look at the different links that give you information for your state. Okay, so part of that education is putting a little bit of initiative there. So I'm providing that as a resource. I would encourage you all to go online. So, ladies and gentlemen, in the world of TV, time is everything. And so we have to be very mindful and adhere to our time constraints. But I just want to take a moment to say thank you to each one of you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to represent your organization and to represent the state that you are currently living in or the states in which you pledged. And I appreciate you sharing your voice here as I strive to empower our community. So I want to encourage everyone to go out, rock the vote, remember what you heard here today, and just a quick show of hands. Could you raise your hand if your fraternity or sorority provides some type of mentoring program or scholarship, or do you see the hands waved? Okay, so make sure that you also go online and keep an eye out for these fraternities and sororities in your community. And as always, I like to say, make sure you're paying attention to who's supporting me and support them as well. And with that, thank you for tuning in as we reframe your reality, empower your vision, activate your faith, and liberate your legacy. This has been Dr. Rollins Fells. Be blessed.
Thank you.